Well, since Gina Cass-Gottlieb was appointed chair of the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission around 2 years ago, she's advocated for more power when it comes to mergers and takeovers. Too often, she has said in the past, mergers are announced as a fait accompli without the ACCC being considered. It has to play catch-up. Treasury put out a discussion paper, and today the Treasurer responded, giving more power to Cass-Gottlieb and her commissioners.
What we want to do is we want to look at mergers which have the potential to substantially lessen competition, but over time that might have a creeping impact. And so what we want to do is to strengthen the ACCC's hand when it comes to looking at troubling mergers.
But the ACCC did not necessarily get everything its own way. It argued that the onus of proof about whether a deal will diminish competition should be for the merging companies to prove and not the ACCC. But the Treasurer decided that the ACCC must prove that competition will be decreased for it to knock back a takeover. And that leads to the potential for the Australian Competition Tribunal to still be used as the ultimate arbiter when companies need to appeal, just as happened in the ANZ Bank's attempt to take over Suncorp. Well, the ACCC Chair, Gina Cass-Gottlieb, joins me now. Gina, always great to chat to you. Do you consider that the Treasurer's decisions today is a win for your powers in deciding over takeovers and mergers?
We welcome the set of merger reforms the Treasurer has announced, Ross. We think that they will better enable us to see the mergers that matter and also to be able to prevent those that are going to be anti-competitive. We think the package as a whole delivers to the objectives for which we are wanting merger reform.
OK, so in some of the submissions to Treasury, they argued that the ACCC can be too slow in making decisions. It takes too long to analyse the deals. They say the time is, as a result, lost. Does this mean that the process for you to analyse takeovers and mergers becomes shorter, which makes the market more efficient?
We consider in a number of ways that this will be more efficient, more transparent and more certain. So firstly, because the parties will be required to come to us, they will be required to give us the information so that we're able to make an effective decision. It means that we are sure that in 80 to 90% of the matters that are notified to us, that they will be decided within a 30-day period. So that gives more certainty on timeframes and also a more efficient process. What it also will involve is that there will be greater transparency. So each of the matters will be put on a register as to the parties, a summary of the transaction and the expected timeframe. We will also be required to and will give written reasons in relation to each decision, whether we approve or don't approve. And for the matters that go into the second phase, which will be a very small proportion, so those that go past the 30-day period, on those matters we will give a written notice setting out the areas of concern so that the merger parties will have an opportunity and due process to be able to put their responses to the ACCC. We consider that this will be more streamlined, one decision-making process, us, and then, if parties wish, the tribunal on review, more efficient and more certain and more transparent.
OK, so there has been a lot said in recent days about supermarkets. The government obviously has a draft decision from the report that Craig Emerson made. There's been discussion about airlines over a period of time. You've mentioned some of those areas where you consider that competition is being lessened in Australia. The Treasurer talked about that today. And that really is where these changes affect businesses and ordinary Australians. It's about the level of choice that we have in this country and who can merge or who can make a takeover.
Absolutely. We have around us increasing concentration in multiple markets and, importantly, in a range of retail-facing markets that are important to every household, to small businesses, suppliers and as competitors. What these changes will allow is, firstly, that the ACCC will be more assured that the mergers that matter will come before us. So we will there will be a requirement for all transactions above specified thresholds to be notified. No roulette that we may be notified, we may not be notified, we may be notified late, that we will be notified and we will have to receive the information. The communities, therefore, will have confidence that the transactions that are above the threshold, that have the potential to be anti-competitive, must be notified, must be properly reviewed, and then that we have the capacity to prevent them before completion if we reach the view that they are likely to substantially lessen competition. In other words, to reduce choice, to reduce quality of products and services, and to lead to a risk of increased price. All of that is very important for the community to have confidence.
Just one thing I'm not 100% sure of. Are you seeking, before the takeover is announced, that the ACCC be informed of a potential merger or takeover? You've worked in commercial law. You know how sensitive, from a secrecy point of view, these deals are and can be. Many would argue that's the reason why they won't come to the ACCC or to any other regulator early, simply because they're paranoid about the secrecy of that deal.
Parties will have the option to come confidentially to the ACCC before putting in an application for approval, and there will be value in pre-filing consultation, because we can talk about what is the information that will assist, so that as soon as the parties are ready to be public about the transaction, they'll be able to file the application, and then we will be able to start the process. The ACCC has an extremely high standard and record of maintaining confidentiality.
So that's the key, because it's the high standard of confidentiality that, of course, some might be paranoid about out in that marketplace. Just tell me, going back over the past, well, you've been there 2 years, but even beyond that, do you sense there may have been takeovers or mergers that may have been blocked by the ACCC if it had had the time and the knowledge to be able to investigate ahead of that deal having been pretty much done and dusted?
We've had a number of examples which have shown, so Petstock was one, the Healthscope primary one in relation to pathology in Queensland was another, where the parties engaged in a transaction in the Petstock case completed a multiple series of them, resulting in becoming the second largest chain with no notification whatsoever. So there is an absolute set of evidence that during an informal voluntary scheme, there have been failed to be notifications, so the ACCC couldn't even make an assessment until, in the case of Petstock, another listed company wished to make an investment and it brought that transaction to the ACCC. So we can see the absolute case and need for these compulsory requirements for there to be mandatory notification and no completion of the transaction until the ACCC has concluded its assessment.
I'll tell you what, always good to chat to you, Gina Cass-Gottlieb, and many thanks for your time today.
My pleasure, Ross. Good to be with you.